Hi everyone, this is Alexander, and today I want to shoot a quick video on the BoostedBreakRemote and how to access the serial command port on it. What I've got right here is my BoostedBreakRemote. It is open to show you that it is in fact, my PCB inside. Know that you can access it without opening it up. In fact, I will close it with a quick cut. Everything's accessible through that USB port at the bottom. All right, so that's my BoostedBreakRemote now closed. I've also plugged in a mini USB cable at the bottom. And the first step in order to getting the virtual COM port up and running is to figure out which COM port it is on your laptop. I'm going to show you doing this on a Windows laptop. Let's open Device Manager. In fact, I'll show you really quick. You hit Windows key, type in Device, and Device Manager usually comes up pretty early. And we'll notice that right now we're looking for a selection that's like port, but notice that there isn't anything selected. That means nothing connected to my laptop right now is acting like a port. So we're going to change that by plugging in my remote. There we go. You notice that the device manager window is going to open, and now we have a section called ports, COM and LPT. If we open that, we'll notice that, hey, we have a serial port at COM5. This is, in fact, our remote. So excellent. We're going to close that now that we know it's COM5. Now, in order to talk to the remote, I recommend using Arduino IDE. It's pretty lightweight for command parsers. It's pretty easy to use. So in order to do that, if you don't have it installed, you can just Google Arduino. You can go to the main home page under software. Oh, we're gonna have to accept cookies for now. Yeah. And go to software. And then they have two versions of the IDE. They have this newer version, and they used to have this older version. I like the older version because it was, how should we say, it seemed more lightweight. But nonetheless, you can choose either version as you want. If you need to download it from this website. All the installation is standard. There's no special steps in order for this to work. I recommend probably another YouTube video that can help you do this step by step if you need it. But I'm going to assume that you have it installed. Again, don't need any additional steps for this to work. I'm going to show you first with the old Arduino IDE. Something like this. First thing I want you to know that the project opened does not matter. It could be a brand new project, an old project for a completely other device, no problem. The only thing you really need to do is go over to the tools and make sure that this port is selected to COM5 or whatever your BoostedBreakRemote shows up as. And then next, you'll hit Serial Monitor. And this will show you the monitor page. You'll need to make sure that the baud rate is set to 1 million baud. It might be set to like 11,5200, but we want 1 million baud. And to check that the remote is in fact communicating, let's type in the command help, HELP, enter, and we have a response. This is a list of all the commands that the board supports. There's a couple that we can test right away. You can, for example, version just tells you the application version and hardware version. You see it showed up at the bottom. Again, I'm typing in the command and then hitting enter to send it. The most important ones that I see will be the status command, status. This is a list of health bit vectors. This is basically a concise way to describe anything that's gone wrong with the firmware, or errors, or some are critical, some aren't, but indicates that something has happened. If you ever encounter an incident with the remote, my greatest recommendation is to get to this stage and copy down the code that it is presenting, and that should be sent to either me or David over at XR General Hospital. We can hopefully identify what might have gone wrong. Next thing I would recommend is if you ever get to the stage where you have the health bits, I recommend saving them maybe to a file or a message to us on Discord or somehow, and then I recommend also clearing with the CLEAR command. That way, if there were any bits present, they will be cleared so that the next time you use your remote, and if something were to go wrong, that we still don't have history from an incident previous. So that is the most important commands that are available on the remote. There are a few others that might be important. For example, secdb clear. If you're encountering any sort of Bluetooth pairing issues, bonding issues, it might be useful to do the secdb clear command. On the latest firmware, you can also 10 tap the power button in order to effectively do the same thing. There are also some calibration settings you can set. For example, battery min and max, you can set the battery voltage for cutoff and max for charging. Now, there's a independent IC for charging, but as far as the firmware is concerned, to determine battery voltage and like percent of charge on the remote, that might be useful to set. You can also set the mag calibration or magnetic sensor calibration if you want to adjust the throttle limits. To quickly demonstrate a way you can do that, we're going to go to the debug state by hitting debug in. This will start printing out all the sensor inputs, and the one we can focus on is angle and acceleration. And long story short, I can pull back and forth on the throttle. We can look at angle goes up to 4200 and 1700 for back. We can adjust that. So here we go to reset. On default, we're at 2000 to 4000 for the magnetic calibration. If you want to change that, you can do mag min. Mag min, there you go. Equals, let's say we want to bump that to 2100. If we hit enter, looks like that was accepted. We can also do mag max equal to 3900. That was also accepted. In order to save any commits, we'll need to do the save NVM command. So what we've changed here doesn't take effect unless we do save NVM. If I hit that, we restart and notice that we now have a new magnetic calibration. If I go into debug, we can see that if I go to 2100, we are already at the limit. Okay, next thing I'm going to show you is that this magcal is saved even if you do a power reset on the remote. I'm going to quickly reset the remote on the firmware side just to exit the debug state. We are charged. I'm going to unplug, actually safer to close the command window. Let's unplug and get the remote turned off. There we go. Now we're off. I'm going to plug back in. There we go. Now, just to show you the other Arduino IDE, I'm going to use it. So I'm going to load up the other IDE. This is the new one. Looks something like this. A bit more flashy. Just like the older IDE, what's important is that we select the correct Comm port. So right now I have some random board. It really doesn't matter. So when you first select this, it might present you something like a window that looks something like this. There you go, sorry, I'm not in frame, but it looks something like this, where it's like, hey, choose a board. It literally doesn't matter. You can choose any which one. In fact, I'll just choose a new one. And the reason it doesn't matter is because we are not actually loading anything through the Arduino IDE onto the remote. It's not possible. What's important, like the other one, is to select the correct baud rate once we're at this stage. I'm gonna close that real quick and try again. Again, we want 1 million baud. There it is, 1 million baud. And then just like the other IDE, I can start sending commands. So like reset. There we go. That's reset. You can see now we are talking. Forgot to mention that the magnetic calibration is still set to 2100 to 3900, and so it was saved across the power cycle. Now let's say I no longer want the mag calibration anymore. So if there was that erase command, but whenever you forget, you can always send the help command and it'll give you the list, and you can notice there's erase mag cal. So I'm going to go do that. Erase mag cal. Hit enter. There we go. We're going to go back to defaults, which was 2000 and 4000. So don't be worried about changing any of these settings. You can always revert them relatively easily. Anyways, that is a quick video on how to use the command virtual COM port to command the remote to do stuff and tell you stuff. That's very helpful for diagnosing issues or debugging any problems that you may have with the remote. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Otherwise, happy writing, everyone.